Are you tired of settling for mediocrity while the world keeps moving forward? Imagine unlocking your full potential and achieving more than you ever thought possible. Starting today. This channel is dedicated to delivering actionable strategies, life-changing insights, and practical motivation that you can implement immediately to elevate your standards, sharpen your focus, and transform your life. By subscribing, you'll gain access to a consistent stream of high-value content designed to help you grow faster, think smarter, and achieve results others only dream about. Hit subscribe and start your transformation now. Number 1. Define non-negotiables. Enforce daily. The single most powerful change a person can make is deciding in plain, uncompromising language what will no longer be negotiable. Non-negotiables are the boundaries that shape every day, the behaviors, rituals, and standards that will occur regardless of mood, tiredness, or temptation. They are small, concrete promises to self that become the backbone of character. Defining them is not an exercise in wishful thinking. It is an act of deliberate design. When non-negotiables are chosen and enforced, uncertainty fades, friction decreases, and energy is redirected from arguing with oneself to building. Begin by naming no more than 5 non-negotiables. The human mind resists too many iron laws. Keep the list short and specific. Examples that work: wake at 5:30 and move for 20 minutes. No social media before work. Write 500 purposeful words daily. 1 deep conversation with a loved one every evening. Weekly review every Sunday at 7 p.m. These are not goals with vague outcomes. They are commitments about process. A non-negotiable is not be healthier. It is eat a real protein-rich breakfast by 8 a.m. every weekday. Specificity is the difference between promise and wish. Write each non-negotiable in present tense, as if it already happens. Feel the weight of the words as you write them. Hold the pen. Notice the grain of the paper. Hear the tiny scrape as the tip moves. This sensory attention anchors the idea. Something written and felt is more likely to be kept. Once written, place the list somewhere unavoidable. Tape it to the mirror. Save it as a phone wallpaper. Print it and fold it into a wallet. Visibility is enforcement. The repeated visual cue reduces the mental cost of remembering and raises the immediate cost of breaking the rule. Enforcement must be built into systems. Relying on willpower alone is fragile. Designing friction and support into the environment makes compliance effortless. For example, if the non-negotiable is morning movement, set clothes out before bed, prepare a simple 5-minute routine, and put a glass of water by the bed. If the non-negotiable is no social media before work, uninstall apps from the phone or use a simple website blocker during morning hours. If the commitment is writing 500 words daily, structure the environment, create a distraction-free file with a single title, close email, and set a kitchen timer for 4 small physical steps. Placing running shoes by the door, charging the phone in another room, closing the office door. Translate intention into action. Create a clear accountability mechanism. Private promises often wither. Public commitments forge responsibility. Share the non-negotiables with one trusted person and ask for weekly check-ins. Better yet, sign a simple contract. Write the commitment, the consequences for failure, and a date for review. Consequences need not be punitive. In a harsh way, they should create enough discomfort to matter. Examples: donating a fixed sum to a cause that contradicts your values, performing an unpleasant but constructive task, or publicly posting a failure and the plan to correct it. The point is not to be cruel to yourself but to introduce real stake. Humans respond strongly to external friction when internal friction is low. Define what counts as a violation and what counts as an exception. Design clear, unemotional rules for handling both. A non-negotiable without an exception rule collapses when life intervenes. When illness, travel, or emergency occur, create an exception protocol, a short, concrete process that preserves the standard without turning the exception into a loophole. For instance, if the non-negotiable is daily movement and sudden illness prevents activity, the protocol could be replace movement with 5 minutes of diaphragmatic breathing and a written log of symptoms. The protocol keeps the habit of honoring commitments alive and protects against slippery slopes. Create rituals around the non-negotiables. Rituals transform a rule into identity. A simple ritual could be a 2-minute centering practice before checking email, Sit, breathe, read the list of non-negotiables aloud, and visualize the 3 most important tasks for the day. Another ritual. At night, touch the list, review the day, mark compliance, and write 1 sentence about what worked and what did not. Rituals add gravity. They create sensory anchors. The scent of the morning coffee, the soft click of a pen, so the brain associates daily life with the standard being upheld. Measure diligently. Measurement is a mirror. Track compliance with a simple, satisfying system. A paper calendar where a filled square marks success. A habit tracker app with a daily checkmark, or a small notebook with a yes/no column for each non-negotiable. Keep the tracking visible. A streak of filled squares is motivating in itself. A gap reveals truth. Once a week, conduct a short review. What % of days were compliant? Which non-negotiables slipped most often and why? The review is not an invitation to shame, but a moment for honest problem solving. The goal is to refine the system until execution feels natural. Language matters. Use decisive words that remove wiggle room. This is non-negotiable is more powerful than I will try. Speak to yourself as a reliable leader would speak to a team member. Calm, firm, direct. Replace negotiation with instruction. A short self-script can help on the cusp of temptation. This is the standard. I honor it now. Repeat it quietly, feel the cadence, and proceed. Over time, this language rewires internal debate into immediate action. Prepare for the first break. Expect it, plan for it, and respond with clarity. A single missed day does not erase identity. The Stoic approach is to accept mistakes without flinching and to return to the standard immediately. When a break occurs, perform a micro-repair, acknowledge what happened, note any triggers, and enact a corrective step within 24 hours. For example, missed morning movement due to late work. Corrective, 20 minutes tonight, and adjust bedtime to be earlier tomorrow. This rapid correction prevents moral erosion. Consistency emerges from the pattern of returning to the standard, not from perfection. Use small, calculated increases to harden the non-negotiable into habit. Start with a scale that is almost embarrassing in its ease. Commitments that you can accomplish even on your worst day. If the non-negotiable is writing, begin with 200 words rather than. Once the small action is reliably executed, increase demand gradually. This incremental method avoids burnout and creates a compound effect. Stoic discipline values steady progress, measured in repetitions rather than dramatic leaps. A modest, consistent standard will outperform an ambitious, intermittent sprint. Anchor non-negotiables to identity. Labels are powerful. Phrase commitments as declarations of who you are becoming. Replace "I will try to exercise" with "I am someone who moves daily." Replace "I will attempt focused work" with "I am a person who honors deep work blocks." Identity-based language shifts motivation from external results to internal consistency. When standards are woven into identity, the cost of breaking them becomes a cost to self-image, which is a strong motivator. Design environmental supports that make the preferred action the easiest choice. Remove the temptations that require active resistance. If social media is a problem, make the physical act of accessing it inconvenient. Log out after each use, move apps off the home screen, or place the device in a different room during focused hours. If clutter undermines productivity, implement a 5-minute nightly clearance ritual that restores the workspace. The environment is the silent partner in discipline. Shape it to practice negative visualization to fortify the will. Contemplate the small, plausible consequences of not enforcing standards. The projects left incomplete, the health slowly eroding, the relationships that atrophy. Sensory imagination makes danger immediate. Envision the dull buzz of regret, the heavy shrug of missed potential. This is not fear-mongering but a practical calibration of motivation. Understanding what is at stake deepens commitment. Finally, cultivate a generous, steady self-command. Enforcement of non-negotiables is not an act of cruelty. It is an act of care. The stern discipline used to shape behavior should be matched by a soft readiness to repair and a clear refusal to indulge guilt. Recognize growth as a process of small returns. Celebrate consistent action without theatrics. A quiet nod, a satisfied exhale, the small pleasure of a box checked on the calendar. Those moments accumulate into a life that looks and feels different, calmer, more decisive, more true. Begin tonight by writing your 5 non-negotiables in present tense. Make them visible. Add one enforcement mechanism, one accountability person, and a simple tracking method. Prepare an exception protocol. Sleep with the list under the pillow or taped to the nightstand. In the morning, act as though the standard is already part of the furniture of the day. Over time, the repetition will sculpt character. Non-negotiables are not rules for punishment. They are the architecture of a life that honors what matters. Enforce them daily, not for show, but to become the person capable of the things you truly want. Number 2, audit habits. Upgrade weakest areas. Life unfolds largely in patterns, and every pattern carries consequences. Habits, those repeated choices that feel automatic, are the quiet architects of your success or failure. Most people spend their days reacting, rarely examining which actions build momentum and which drain energy. Auditing habits is the conscious act of stepping outside the flow, observing your routines with brutal honesty, and identifying the areas where improvement has the highest return. It is a discipline that requires courage, clarity, and patience, but it transforms chaos into deliberate progress. Upgrading the weakest areas of life is not about doing everything at once. It is about finding the nodes in your daily existence that determine the strength of the whole system. Start by observing the most mundane parts of your day. Track every activity for at least 3 consecutive days. Write down when you wake, what you eat, how you move, what consumes your attention, and what conversations occupy your energy. The goal is not to judge, but to create a precise map of reality. Most habits are hidden in plain sight: scrolling your phone before bed, snacking without thought, responding instantly to every notification, allowing energy-sapping conflicts to linger. Without a clear map, attempting improvement is like sailing without a compass. Next, categorize the habits. Identify those that elevate performance, energy, and focus, and those that drain it. Assign each habit a weight based on its impact: high, medium, a morning routine that sets a positive tone, deep work blocks that move meaningful projects forward, and consistent sleep habits are high-impact practices. Mindless social media scrolling, unhealthy eating patterns, and reacting to every email immediately are high-impact drains. Many people make the mistake of attacking low-impact behaviors while leaving the real bottlenecks untouched. Focus on what moves the needle most. Examine the weakest areas first. Weakness is not a moral failing. It is a practical vulnerability. A weak area may be anything from inconsistent exercise, poor nutrition, scattered focus, procrastination, or neglecting relationships. Each weak spot has a domino effect. It weakens confidence, productivity, and long-term outcomes. Identify these areas with specificity. Avoid vague labels like "I'm lazy" or "I eat poorly." Instead, define the habit in clear terms. I skip breakfast 3 times per week, or I respond to emails immediately without batching. Precision is power. After identifying the weakest nodes, analyze triggers. Habits almost always have a cue, routine, and reward. Understand what sparks the undesirable behavior and what you feel you gain from it. For example, reaching for your phone may come from boredom, avoidance, or stress relief. Eating sweets in the afternoon could be a signal of low energy or emotional fatigue. Once triggers are recognized, redesign responses. Replace the automatic reaction with a constructive one that fulfills the same need, but produces strength rather than weakness. Replace scrolling with journaling. Replace sugar with a quick walk. Replace reactive emailing with scheduled blocks for correspondence. Set a small, measurable improvement for each weak habit. Radical, overnight transformations are rare and unsustainable. Instead, aim for incremental progress. If concentration fades after 45 minutes, increase focus sessions from 45 to 50. If exercise is skipped 3 days a week, aim to do it 4 days consistently. Compounding small improvements produces long-term superiority. Patience is crucial. Excellence is the sum of tiny, deliberate actions repeated without fail. Eliminate decision fatigue from the process. Structure improvements so that choosing the upgraded behavior requires minimal mental effort. Prepare meals in advance. If nutrition is a weak spot, set alarms and reminders to anchor new routines. Place exercise equipment in plain sight. Arrange your workspace to favor focus. The fewer mental barriers between intention and action, the more likely a new habit will stick. Design the environment to serve discipline rather than willpower alone. Audit not only your personal routines, but also external influences. People, environments, and media shape habits as powerfully as internal choices. Observe who drains your energy and who elevates it. Notice which environments tempt you into poor habits and which support growth. Replace toxic influences with constructive ones wherever possible. Weak areas are often reinforced by the surrounding ecosystem. Upgrading habits is incomplete without adjusting the external architecture that sustains them. Document the progress meticulously. Keep a daily log of behavior, triggers, and responses. Note small wins and failures alike. Writing creates clarity, externalizes memory, and offers the satisfaction of tracking real change. Weekly, review the log to identify patterns, which times, moods, or environments lead to lapses, which adjustments produced improvement. This reflection is a feedback loop that allows continuous refinement. Habits are not static. They evolve when observed, measured, and adjusted. Pair habit upgrades with identity reinforcement. Each small improvement should be framed as evidence of who you are becoming. For example, moving from inconsistent exercise to 4 days a week becomes proof of your identity as someone disciplined and physically strong. Replacing reactive phone scrolling with mindful journaling reinforces your identity as someone focused and intentional. The transformation is not just behavior, it is self-concept. When identity aligns with action, habits become effortless extensions of character. Embrace discomfort as part of the upgrade process. Weak areas resist change because they are comfortable in their mediocrity. Upgrading them will trigger resistance, unease, and temptation to revert. This discomfort is not a signal to stop. It is confirmation that growth is occurring. The ability to tolerate and act through discomfort is the hallmark of resilience. Approach these moments with calm, deliberate action. Every time a weak habit is replaced with a strong one, confidence grows, and the mental threshold for resistance rises. Create a priority ladder. Not all weaknesses are equally urgent. Rank the weak areas by their impact on life, work, and health. Tackle the highest priority habits first, while keeping minor ones in view. Focusing on everything at once dilutes energy and produces frustration. Start where failure would be most costly or improvement most transformative. Sequential focus ensures that each upgrade produces visible results that reinforce motivation for the next. Introduce a reward system, subtle yet meaningful for reinforced behavior. Reward is not indulgence but recognition. Celebrate adherence to a new habit with small sensory pleasures. A quiet walk in nature, a favorite tea, 5 minutes of reflection, or simply noting the win in a journal. Reinforcement strengthens neural pathways and embeds the new behavior. Avoid celebrating in ways that contradict the habit upgrade. The reward should honor the improvement rather than undermine it. Regularly reevaluate. Habits are dynamic, and weaknesses shift over time. A weekly or bi-weekly review allows the identification of emerging weak points before they escalate. Audit progress not as judgment, but as adjustment. Ask, which behaviors produce the greatest effect? Which still sap energy? Which environments or triggers have shifted? Continuous auditing ensures habits evolve alongside life, rather than becoming stagnant or misaligned. Finally, accept that the process is ongoing. Weakness is never entirely eliminated. Improvement is a journey rather than a destination. Auditing habits and upgrading weak areas is a lifelong practice, a form of personal maintenance that keeps life moving toward mastery rather than drift. Embrace the responsibility with equanimity. The only real failure is neglecting observation and refusing to act. Each conscious choice to strengthen a weak area is a step toward a life governed by intention rather than circumstance. Begin by choosing one habit that most undermines your potential. Observe it for 3 days. Record triggers and define a micro-improvement. Prepare the environment to support the change, anchor it to identity, and track it daily. Reflect weekly and adjust. Repeat this process across other weak areas. Over time, the small, deliberate upgrades compound into transformative results, producing strength, clarity, and freedom. Life shaped by conscious habit audits becomes a life defined by purpose rather than inertia. Every habit audit uncovers insight. Every weak area upgraded produces momentum, and every small improvement fortifies character. The deliberate act of reviewing, refining, and reinforcing routines is the invisible scaffolding on which achievement, resilience, and satisfaction are built. Consistency in this practice is the key to converting intention into enduring capability. Through careful dirting and targeted upgrading, the life you desire is not just imagined, it becomes inevitable. Number 3. Set minimums. Reject mediocrity. Every life, whether remarkable or ordinary, is built on the standards we quietly tolerate. Mediocrity is not always dramatic. It often sneaks in through the tiny concessions we make daily, accepting subpar work, allowing half-hearted effort, or settling for minimal engagement becomes a slow erosion of potential. The antidote is establishing minimums, non-negotiable thresholds of performance, behavior, and commitment that define what is acceptable and what is not. Setting minimums is a declaration: anything below this level is not tolerated. It is a firm boundary against mediocrity, a way to ensure that life consistently moves toward mastery rather than drift. Begin by identifying the areas where mediocrity creeps in unnoticed. These may be professional outputs, personal routines, relationships, or self-care. Reflect on the moments when you feel frustrated, exhausted, or disappointed. Often these emotions signal that you have tolerated less than you deserve or are capable of achieving. Make a list of these domains, prioritizing those that have the most significant impact on your life trajectory. High-impact areas where results compound over time deserve the strictest minimum. Define clear, measurable minimums for each area. Ambiguity is the enemy of enforcement. A vague standard like work harder is powerless. A concrete minimum, such as complete 3 high-priority tasks before noon, provides structure and clarity. If health is the area of concern, the minimum might be exercise at least 30 minutes, 5 days a week, or eat 2 servings of vegetables per meal. For personal development, it could be read at least 20 pages of a challenging book daily. A minimum is not about stretching limits in every instance. It is about consistently meeting a baseline that ensures growth and competence. Establish minimums for effort as well as output. Talent or intelligence is irrelevant if effort is inconsistent. Set standards for how much energy, attention, and intentionality you will bring to every task. Effort minimums ensure that even on days of low motivation, the foundation remains solid. Mediocrity often appears when effort fluctuates with emotion, but a well-defined minimum anchors performance to a stable, intentional baseline. Rejecting mediocrity requires ruthless honesty. Examine past patterns where standards were lowered to accommodate convenience, fear, or fatigue. Acknowledge the specific moments when compromise led to lost opportunities, damaged relationships, or regret. The purpose is not self-criticism but illumination. Understanding the true cost of tolerating less than necessary makes the imperative to set minimums visceral. Awareness generates resolve. Embed accountability into the enforcement of minimums. Alone, a self-imposed baseline is easy to rationalize away. Accountability can be formal, reporting to a mentor, coach, or peer, or informal, such as daily self-check-ins with explicit measurement of adherence. Track compliance meticulously. Record completion, quality, and any deviations. Data provides unfiltered insight. Over time, the record of adherence versus failure becomes a motivating mirror, revealing patterns, strengths, and weaknesses without distortion. Create a system that supports meeting minimums even under pressure. Mediocrity often surfaces when energy is low, stress is high, or distractions abound. Design routines, habits, and environments that favor baseline compliance automatically. If writing a daily minimum of 500 words is required, schedule uninterrupted blocks, pre-plan ideas, and eliminate potential distractions. If consistent movement is essential, prepare clothing, shoes, and equipment in advance. Reduce the friction between intention and action, ensuring that meeting minimums does not depend solely on willpower. Define consequences for failing to meet minimums. Without consequences, boundaries are weak and easily dismissed. Consequences do not need to be punitive in a destructive sense. They must create enough discomfort to matter. Examples include doubling effort in a corrective session, publicly reporting a lapse, or performing an action that is personally challenging but constructive. Consequences create stakes, transforming minimums from mere suggestions into obligations that command respect. Pair minimums with aspiration. While a minimum is the floor, it does not eliminate striving for excellence. Think of it as the platform from which growth occurs. Consistently achieving minimums generates momentum, confidence, and energy that enable higher performance. Over time, this foundation supports ambitious targets without being derailed by inconsistency or low standards. Mediocrity is rejected not only through boundaries, but also through the proactive cultivation of higher levels of performance. Observe the ripple effect of minimums on identity. Repeatedly meeting a clear baseline strengthens self-perception and internal authority. When the minimum is non-negotiable, character is reinforced. The person who consistently honors their word, meets deadlines, maintains health routines, or delivers high-quality work is someone with credibility and self-command. Minimums are not limitations. They are a scaffolding that structures daily life around integrity and competence. Apply minimums to interactions and relationships. Social and professional standards are as critical as personal routines. Define the minimum for respect, attention, and engagement, listening without distraction, honoring commitments, responding thoughtfully, and avoiding gossip or negativity. Relationships thrive not through grand gestures alone, but through consistent, reliable baseline behavior. Mediocrity in interactions leads to erosion of trust and influence. Minimums establish a foundation of reliability that sustains connection and respect. Address mental and emotional minimums. Discipline of thought is as important as physical action. Set standards for the mental energy devoted to challenges, decision-making, and reflection. Avoid reactive, shallow responses that dilute effectiveness. Cultivate clarity by dedicating time to focused problem-solving, journaling, and introspection. Emotional minimums involve recognizing triggers, processing setbacks with calm, and maintaining composure under pressure. Rejecting mediocrity includes refusing to tolerate mental clutter or emotional drift that undermines performance. Visualize the consequences of failing minimums vividly. Imagine the subtle cumulative cost of consistently doing just enough without demanding your full potential. Consider the opportunities lost, the slow decay of skills, the erosion of respect, and the lingering sense of dissatisfaction. Contrast that with the satisfaction, energy, and self-respect that arise from consistently honoring minimums. This mental exercise transforms abstract concepts into tangible motivation. The contrast between the cost of mediocrity and the benefit of minimum adherence fuels determination. Cultivate discipline through repetition and gradual reinforcement. Minimums gain power through repetition. Every day a minimum is met, neural pathways are strengthened, confidence grows, and resistance to mediocrity increases. When standards are repeatedly honored, excellence becomes easier to achieve because the baseline is firmly established. Start with achievable minimums, then maintain consistency until compliance is effortless. After mastery of the baseline, incremental improvements can be layered without destabilizing the system. Avoid comparison to others. Minimums are personal. They reflect capability and responsibility, not external expectations. Focus on self-mastery rather than competition. Mediocrity often appears when external pressures or societal norms justify lowered effort. True rejection of mediocrity stems from internal authority, doing what is required according to self-defined thresholds, regardless of external standards. This internal compass ensures stability, confidence, and continuous growth. Integrate reflection into daily routines. Review adherence to minimums each evening. Ask, did I meet all baseline requirements? Where did I slip? What adjustments are necessary to reinforce compliance? Use this reflection to refine, adjust, and strengthen routines. Journaling, logging, or simply verbalizing insights ensures that minimums remain alive and relevant, rather than static concepts forgotten in the busyness of life. Finally, embrace the principle that excellence is the accumulation of well-kept minimums. Rejecting mediocrity is not a dramatic act. It is the quiet insistence that the baseline is worthy of respect. Every repeated compliance with a minimum builds momentum, shapes character, and positions life for growth beyond expectation. The power of minimums lies in their consistency. Over weeks, months, and years, small, unwavering standards produce extraordinary outcomes. Begin now by defining one area where mediocrity infiltrates your life. Specify the minimum you will accept, identify the support system to enforce it, and track adherence daily. Visualize the consequences of failure and the rewards of compliance. Over time, apply this process to additional areas, allowing the network of minimums to fortify character, enhance discipline, and reject mediocrity across all domains. The simple, relentless enforcement of well-chosen minimums transforms ordinary routines into a life of intentional strength, mastery, and undeniable integrity. Number 4. Track promises. Keep commitments. Every promise made is a contract with the future, a bridge between intention and reality. Yet, too often, people treat commitments lightly, assuming that words spoken or intentions declared are sufficient. In reality, keeping promises is the currency of trust, character, and personal authority. Every promise honored strengthens credibility, builds confidence, and reinforces the belief that you are capable of shaping your life with integrity. Conversely, every promise broken erodes self-respect, weakens relationships, and silently lowers standards. Tracking promises and ensuring they are kept is not just a habit, it is a philosophy of accountability that transforms ordinary actions into a life of consistent power. Start by cataloging every commitment, large and small. Include professional obligations, personal intentions, and self-promises. No promise is too trivial to track, because small actions compound into identity. Missing a minor personal commitment today, like returning a message promptly, signals to the subconscious that promises are negotiable. Conversely, consistently honoring small promises creates an internal authority that extends to major undertakings. The act of listing all commitments provides clarity, reduces mental clutter, and establishes a concrete landscape on which deliberate action can be taken. Once promises are cataloged, assign a method of tracking each. Use digital tools, notebooks, or habit trackers that allow visibility and accountability. Each commitment should have a status indicator: pending, in progress, completed, or delayed. Visual representation matters. Seeing a promise shift from pending to complete produces a subtle but powerful reinforcement of reliability. It transforms abstract intentions into observable results. Tracking is not about creating pressure. It is about creating clarity and a structure that naturally leads to action. Prioritize promises by impact and urgency. Not all commitments carry equal weight, and understanding which have the greatest consequences prevents energy from being dissipated on low-value tasks. Urgent and high-impact promises, those that affect career growth, critical relationships, or personal development, demand first attention. Lower priority promises are still tracked but can be addressed sequentially. This strategic ordering ensures that reliability is not diluted by distraction, and that the most consequential actions are consistently fulfilled. Break every promise into actionable steps. Large commitments can feel overwhelming and often lead to procrastination or avoidance. Transform a commitment into discrete, tangible tasks with deadlines. For example, a promise to improve fitness becomes attend 3 gym sessions this week, or complete a 30-minute run each morning. Promises to improve relationships can be divided into clear actions: call a parent every Sunday, or schedule a monthly lunch with a close friend. By deconstructing commitments, follow-through becomes tangible and achievable rather than abstract and intimidating. Use reminders strategically to reinforce memory and action. The human brain is excellent at forgetting under pressure or distraction. Setting alarms, notifications, or visual cues ensures that commitments remain present and actionable. Post sticky notes, calendar alerts, or phone reminders to maintain attention on promises without requiring constant mental effort. Repeated exposure strengthens the connection between intention and execution, reducing the likelihood that a promise will fade unnoticed. Establish accountability partnerships where feasible. Trusted friends, colleagues, or mentors can act as mirrors for promises, increasing the likelihood that commitments are kept. Sharing intentions creates external stakes that complement internal discipline. A weekly check-in or casual update with someone who understands and respects your goals reinforces commitment and adds a social dimension to accountability. Accountability partners help illuminate blind spots, provide encouragement, and maintain momentum when motivation wanes. Document progress meticulously. Record when promises are fulfilled, delayed, or adjusted, and include context for each outcome. Reflecting on patterns over time reveals insights about personal consistency, strengths, and areas that require additional discipline. Tracking is not punitive, it is instructive. Observing repeated success reinforces confidence, while recognizing patterns of delay or avoidance offers clarity on where systems need adjustment or habits need strengthening. Honor commitments with immediacy wherever possible. Promises fulfilled quickly send a powerful signal to the mind and others that you are reliable and decisive. Delaying completion erodes the perceived importance of the promise and trains the brain to tolerate postponement. Immediate action reinforces the neural pathways associated with responsibility, making follow-through increasingly automatic. Even small steps toward a promise, completed promptly, cultivate momentum that makes completing larger promises easier. Treat self-promises with the same seriousness as promises to others. The most damaging breaches often occur within private commitments, exercising, personal development, or health-related actions. Treating yourself as a reliable partner ensures that internal authority is strengthened. Every self-promise kept is a reinforcement of personal power and self-trust. When internal commitments are consistently honored, the foundation for honoring external commitments solidifies naturally. Design a system to handle missed commitments without guilt, only adjustment. Human life is unpredictable, and occasional delays or interruptions are inevitable. A missed promise should be logged, analyzed, and corrected immediately. Identify the reason for failure, adjust timelines or strategies, and recommit with clarity. This process preserves integrity without allowing lapses to cascade into erosion of standards. Stoic discipline emphasizes returning to the standard swiftly, turning minor failures into opportunities for learning rather than sources of despair. Anchor the practice of promise-keeping in identity. See yourself as someone who delivers, consistently meets obligations, and can be relied upon. Self-perception shapes behavior more than abstract intentions. When identity aligns with action, each promise becomes a reflection of who you are rather than a burden. Missing a promise then conflicts with self-concept, increasing the psychological weight of honoring commitment. Repeated fulfillment of promises builds a reinforced sense of capability and moral authority over time. Integrate sensory reinforcement into promise tracking. Writing commitments by hand, hearing reminders, and visually checking progress all strengthen neural association between intention and action. Engaging multiple senses embeds reliability as a lived experience rather than an abstract principle. The more vivid and multidimensional the tracking system, the more deeply commitment is internalized and executed. Establish ritual around key promises. Ritual converts intention into routine and removes the need for constant deliberation. Morning reviews of promises, end-of-day reflection, and weekly planning sessions transform awareness into habit. These rituals maintain high fidelity to commitments, reduce oversight, and create a rhythm that makes promise-keeping effortless and automatic. Leverage failure as a learning tool. A promise not kept is not a final verdict, but a source of insight. Analyze triggers, context, and obstacles that led to the breach. Adjust systems, timelines, or methods accordingly. Repeatedly returning to promises after setbacks builds resilience, self-discipline, and mental fortitude. The ability to recover and recommit strengthens character more than uninterrupted success ever could. Visualize the cumulative power of consistent promise-keeping. Every fulfilled commitment compounds into reputation, trust, and self-efficacy. Consider how relationships deepen, opportunities multiply, and confidence grows when promises are reliably honored. The mental image of a life where commitments are consistently executed provides motivation during moments of distraction or doubt. The long-term effect is the creation of a life defined by reliability, authority, and self-command. Eliminate excuses by preemptively planning for obstacles. Anticipate potential challenges and create contingency strategies for meeting commitments, despite them. If travel, fatigue, or workload threatens fulfillment, design alternative methods or backup schedules to ensure promises are maintained. Proactive planning transforms unpredictability into controlled action, reinforcing the principle that reliability is not circumstantial, it is chosen. Finally, internalize the principle that a promise is sacred. Treating commitments as inviolable elevates standards, shapes identity, and produces tangible results. Tracking promises, breaking them into actionable steps, monitoring progress, and maintaining accountability transforms abstract intentions into consistent, concrete achievements. The practice is both pragmatic and philosophical. It teaches discipline, builds credibility, and fortifies personal authority. Begin today by listing all active promises, specifying deadlines, and determining tracking methods. Choose one accountability partner and establish reminders and rituals. Break larger commitments into manageable steps, plan for obstacles, and create a protocol for recovery if a promise is missed. Over time, this disciplined approach will instill unshakable reliability, strengthen character, and produce a life where intentions and actions align seamlessly. Through consistent tracking and honoring of commitments, trust is earned, standards rise, and mediocrity is systematically rejected. Number 5, raise environment. Remove distractions. The spaces we inhabit shape the choices we make, and the energy we carry. Every object, sound, and visual cue exerts a subtle influence on focus, productivity, and mood. A cluttered desk, constant notifications, or an environment filled with low-value distractions quietly erodes discipline. Conversely, an environment intentionally designed to support goals can amplify effort, reduce resistance, and turn ordinary action into exceptional results. Raising your environment and removing distractions is not about temporary tidying or occasional adjustments. It is a deliberate, ongoing strategy to align your surroundings with the standards you aspire to uphold. Begin by observing your current environment with precision and honesty. Walk through your workspace, your home, and even your digital landscape, noting every element that diverts attention, consumes energy, or signals complacency. Identify the small but insidious distractions, apps that pull focus, cluttered surfaces, poor lighting, background noise, or even furniture that doesn't support posture and comfort. Every minor irritation compounds, fragmenting mental energy and lowering the threshold for distraction. Awareness is the first step, because you cannot correct what you do not see. Evaluate the energy cost of each element. Some distractions are obvious: social media, unnecessary meetings, or background television. Others are subtler. A messy desk subconsciously signals unfinished business, or an unorganized file system creates friction when you try to complete tasks efficiently. Assign a weight to each distraction based on how much it interrupts concentration or drains motivation. This assessment allows you to prioritize which environmental changes will deliver the most immediate and meaningful improvement. Eliminate low-value inputs. This includes anything that does not contribute to long-term goals or well-being. Reduce notifications to essential contacts only. Unsubscribe from irrelevant email lists, and remove apps or websites that encourage passive consumption. Silence devices during periods of focused work, and create a space where interruptions are minimized. By systematically stripping away distractions, the mind is freed to focus on high-value activities, creating a cognitive environment conducive to deep work. Design physical spaces that naturally guide behavior toward productivity. Place tools, materials, and equipment in locations that encourage use and reduce friction. For example, if writing is a key goal, create a dedicated writing space with a clean desk, proper lighting, and an ergonomically comfortable chair. Keep notebooks, pens, or reference materials within reach, while removing unrelated items that could tempt diversion. Physical arrangement should act as a silent ally, subtly nudging behavior in the direction of disciplined action. Curate visual stimuli to support focus. Eyes are constantly processing information, and the clutter or randomness of visual input can fragment attention. Maintain a clean, orderly environment with minimal visual distraction. A few meaningful items, a calendar, a vision board, or a motivational quote can provide inspiration without overwhelming the senses. Every visual cue should either support intention or remain neutral, never pulling focus away from the priorities of the moment. Pay attention to soundscapes. Background noise, music, or chatter can disrupt cognitive flow depending on the task. Identify auditory distractions and either remove them or replace them with purposeful sounds. Silence, ambient noise, or focus-enhancing music can facilitate concentration and create a mental rhythm conducive to disciplined work. Control over auditory input is as crucial as managing visual clutter because the brain is wired to respond to sound cues continuously. Optimize digital environments. Much of modern life occurs online where distractions proliferate. Organize folders, streamline applications, and create dashboards that minimize unnecessary clicks or searches. Close browser tabs, unrelated to current priorities, and use software tools that block distracting websites during focus sessions. Your digital space should be a reflection of your goals, designed to serve rather than fragment attention. Introduce environmental triggers to reinforce productive behavior. Small cues, like placing a water bottle by your workspace, a notebook for ideas, or a timer for focus sessions, create associations that make productive habits more automatic. The environment can serve as a scaffold, prompting you toward action without requiring constant decision-making. Over time, repeated exposure to these cues strengthens behavioral patterns and reduces the mental friction of initiating effort. Establish boundaries within shared spaces. If living with others, communicate the importance of uninterrupted work periods. Use signals like closed doors, headphones, or visible indicators to create respect for focus time. Boundaries reduce external friction and reinforce internal discipline. Negotiating space intentionally is an act of self-respect that enhances the likelihood of honoring personal commitments and achieving goals. Regularly audit and adjust the environment. Conditions change over time, and new distractions inevitably appear. Conduct weekly reviews of your workspace, digital systems, and routines. Ask, what elements no longer serve my goals? What new distractions have appeared? What adjustments will enhance flow and minimize resistance? Continuous optimization ensures the environment evolves alongside ambition rather than stagnating, allowing standards to remain high. Minimize multitasking opportunities. Environments that encourage jumping between tasks dilute focus and reduce quality. Remove elements that tempt task switching, such as email pop-ups, open chat apps, or multiple work devices active simultaneously. Create dedicated sessions for each priority, allowing the brain to engage fully without divided attention. Reducing fragmented effort amplifies the impact of every minute spent on meaningful work. Invest in tools and resources that elevate performance. High-quality instruments, ergonomic furniture, and functional software reduce resistance and support sustained effort. Cutting corners with cheap or inefficient tools introduces subtle friction that accumulates over time. Treat the environment as a performance partner. The smoother and more supportive it is, the more energy is available to channel into purposeful action. Introduce micro-rituals that signal transitions between distraction and focus. A brief physical action, like clearing the desk, adjusting lighting, or taking a few deep breaths, primes the mind for deliberate work. Rituals mark boundaries, reinforce intention, and create consistency. The mind begins to associate these micro-actions with high-performance states, making focus easier to achieve repeatedly. Consider environmental energy in broader terms. Temperature, lighting, and air quality influence mental clarity, mood, and stamina. Adjust these factors to support sustained engagement and comfort. A workspace that feels physically oppressive or uninviting subtly discourages discipline. Optimal sensory conditions, bright but soft lighting, fresh air, and a comfortable temperature create a foundation that encourages sustained attention and effort. Recognize the interplay between physical and mental environment. Internal states respond to external cues, and external conditions are amplified by mindset. Maintaining a clean, organized, and purpose-driven space reinforces mental clarity and emotional stability. Conversely, a chaotic environment fosters scattered thoughts, frustration, and lowered resilience. Environmental curation is both a practical and psychological strategy for raising standards. Integrate a cycle of evaluation, adjustment, and reinforcement. Change is never one-off. Maintaining high-functioning surroundings requires ongoing effort. Set aside time each week to tidy, reorganize, and refine. Add supportive elements, remove emerging distractions, and reaffirm cues that promote flow. The iterative process ensures the environment continues to enhance, rather than undermine, discipline and focus. Understand that environmental mastery extends beyond immediate spaces. It includes the people, digital inputs, and routines that accompany daily life. Seek relationships, communities, and informational sources that support growth rather than hinder it. Surrounding yourself with high-value influences strengthens the capacity to act consistently, while negative inputs, draining conversations, low-value media, or chaotic schedules erode standards. Finally, recognize the compounding effect of optimized surroundings. When distractions are minimized and supportive cues are maximized, attention is preserved, energy is amplified, and discipline becomes effortless. Each choice reinforced by the environment reduces resistance and strengthens momentum. Raising your environment is not about temporary organization. It is about creating a space that relentlessly supports intentional action, sharpens focus, and nurtures excellence every single day. Start immediately by identifying 3 distractions in your primary workspace, both physical and digital. Remove or neutralize them, then introduce 2 elements that encourage focus and high performance. Observe the change in clarity, energy, and consistency over the following days. Make environmental audits a recurring habit, adjusting as new distractions appear. Over time, the deliberate cultivation of surroundings produces a life where attention is preserved, standards are elevated, and mediocrity has no foothold. By designing the environment to serve your goals, every action becomes easier, every choice more deliberate, and every day more productive, creating a foundation for extraordinary achievement. Number 6, demand excellence. Reward discipline. Excellence is not a gift bestowed at random. It is a demand placed deliberately upon oneself. Those who achieve remarkable results do not stumble into greatness by accident. They insist upon high standards, and they shape every decision, behavior, and environment around those standards. To demand excellence is to refuse compromise when quality matters, to approach each task, conversation, and challenge with deliberate intention, and to cultivate a relentless refusal to accept anything less than one's best. Yet, insisting upon excellence is not sustainable without simultaneously rewarding the discipline that allows it to exist. Discipline is the bridge between intention and outcome, and acknowledging it reinforces behavior, fortifies resilience, and transforms effort into mastery. The first step in demanding excellence is to define what best looks like in every meaningful area of life. This is not an abstract aspiration. It is a concrete, measurable standard. Excellence must be observable, actionable, and consistently accessible, whether in professional projects, creative endeavors, physical fitness, or personal relationships. Clarity about the desired outcome is essential. Ambiguity allows mediocrity to creep in. Specificity transforms intention into an actionable benchmark. For example, excellence in work might be defined as producing error-free deliverables ahead of deadlines with thoughtful attention to detail. In physical training, it might be achieving a measurable improvement in performance or strength weekly. In relationships, it could be ensuring meaningful engagement and presence during interactions without distractions. Once standards are defined, enforce them rigorously. Excellence requires vigilance against shortcuts, procrastination, and rationalizations. Every task, no matter how small, becomes an opportunity to practice high standards. Perform actions with care, integrity, and attention, understanding that consistency is more important than intensity. Mediocrity often arises from neglecting the small moments. Excellence is built in repetition, attention to detail, and refusal to accept lower quality as sufficient. The discipline to maintain standards during ordinary circumstances ensures readiness when extraordinary challenges appear. Simultaneously, track performance with precision. Objective measurement converts abstract aspiration into actionable insight. Record progress, outcomes, and adherence to standards. Reflect on successes and analyze shortfalls without judgment, but with curiosity. Understanding where performance meets or falls short of excellence allows refinement, recalibration, and strategic improvement. Metrics are not tools for self-punishment. They are feedback systems that illuminate reality and reveal opportunities for consistent advancement. Excellence thrives in an environment designed to support it. Surround yourself with conditions that facilitate high performance. A workspace conducive to focus, relationships with individuals who hold similar standards, and routines that reinforce consistency. Remove sources of distraction, low-value tasks, or influences that normalize mediocrity. When the surrounding environment respects excellence, individual effort is amplified, resistance is minimized, and the likelihood of sustaining high standards increases dramatically. Parallel to demanding excellence, reward discipline in tangible ways. Discipline is effort in action. It is the invisible work that produces visible results. Recognizing it strengthens the neural pathways associated with consistency and willpower. Rewards need not be extravagant or indulgent. They should be meaningful enough to reinforce the behavior. A reward might be a short reflection on accomplishments at the end of the day, a quiet moment of satisfaction after completing a challenging task, or a small but significant personal gesture that acknowledges effort. Celebrating discipline reinforces identity. You become someone who honors commitments, invests energy thoughtfully, and values sustained effort. Develop rituals that reinforce both excellence and discipline. Rituals transform abstract intention into habitual action. Morning routines, structured work blocks, end-of-day reflections, and weekly reviews create scaffolding for consistent execution. Each ritual signals to the mind that high standards are not optional, but integral. Rituals also reduce decision fatigue. When the environment, timing, and sequence are predetermined, adherence becomes almost automatic. Excellence, then, is not a daily negotiation, but a habitual outcome of structured effort. Embrace the discomfort that accompanies the pursuit of excellence. High standards demand more energy, focus, and persistence than mediocrity. Resistance, fatigue, and setbacks are inevitable. Approaching these challenges with composure rather than avoidance strengthens resilience. Each moment of sustained effort against internal and external friction reinforces discipline, solidifies character, and expands capacity. Excellence is inseparable from the willingness to endure difficulty while maintaining focus, precision, and intention. Anchor excellence to identity rather than outcome. Rather than viewing success solely as the achievement of external goals, see it as evidence of the type of person you are becoming. I am someone who delivers work of exceptional quality, becomes more potent than I want this project to succeed. Identity-based framing ensures that adherence to standards persists, even when immediate results are delayed or uncertain. Excellence becomes intrinsic rather than conditional, and discipline is a reflection of self-respect rather than obligation. Introduce feedback loops to refine and elevate standards continually. External perspectives from mentors, peers, or trusted advisors provide insight that self-assessment alone cannot achieve. Seek constructive critique and act upon it decisively. Feedback is a mirror reflecting blind spots, confirming areas of strength, and revealing opportunities to stretch beyond previous limits. Excellence is dynamic. Standards evolve with learning, experience, and awareness. Recognize incremental progress as a form of mastery. Excellence is not only about dramatic achievement, but about consistent refinement, attention to detail, and persistent effort. Reward yourself for steady advancement, no matter how small, as it reinforces the value of disciplined practice. Small wins accumulate into compounding results, and the daily commitment to uphold high standards transforms ordinary life into a trajectory of continuous improvement. Cultivate patience alongside rigor. Demanding excellence does not justify impatience or hasty decisions. Precision, thoughtfulness, and deliberate pacing are essential. Hasty execution undermines quality. Measured diligence ensures that each action meets or exceeds the standard. Patience allows sustained engagement with complex challenges, reinforcing discipline while maintaining high standards over time. Integrate reflection into the process of excellence. Daily or weekly reviews of effort, quality, and adherence reveal patterns and highlight areas requiring adjustment. Reflection is not idle introspection, it is active calibration. By evaluating both achievements and lapses, one can refine methods, realign priorities, and reinforce the link between discipline and results. Reflection strengthens accountability to oneself and reinforces commitment to elevated standards. Anticipate temptation and friction proactively. Plan for moments when maintaining standards will be difficult. Prepare contingencies to minimize the risk of compromise under pressure. Structuring work, space, and timing reduces exposure to distraction and weakens excuses. Anticipation strengthens control and ensures that the pursuit of excellence is deliberate rather than reactive. Combine recognition with incremental escalation. Reward discipline for adhering to current standards while progressively raising expectations in measured steps. Each cycle of effort and reward reinforces resilience, skill, and commitment, producing compounding growth over time. The iterative process links achievement to reinforcement, embedding excellence into identity while cultivating the stamina to pursue even higher benchmarks. Finally, understand that demanding excellence and rewarding discipline are inseparable practices. One provides the direction and aspiration, the other solidifies the foundation and motivates adherence. By consistently enforcing high standards, structuring environments and routines to support focus, acknowledging sustained effort, and reflecting on progress, a person develops authority over self, work, and outcomes. Discipline becomes self-reinforcing, and excellence transforms from an abstract ideal into a tangible, lived reality. Start today by defining one area where higher standards are necessary. Specify the benchmark for excellence, design a routine that supports consistent effort, and create a reward mechanism to reinforce disciplined adherence. Observe performance, refine methods, and repeat the cycle with deliberate attention. Over time, this practice generates a life where high standards are maintained effortlessly. Effort is consistently honored, and the pursuit of excellence becomes the defining characteristic of every decision, action, and achievement. Number 7. Increase difficulty. Build tolerance. Growth occurs at the edge of comfort, in the territory where effort stretches beyond familiarity and the mind resists ease. Life that remains perpetually simple and unchallenged produces habits of complacency, leaving potential unclaimed and resilience undeveloped. Increasing difficulty deliberately is a strategic act. It creates controlled stressors that strengthen character, expand capacity, and cultivate tolerance for discomfort. Building tolerance is not about seeking pain for its own sake, but about conditioning the mind and body to operate effectively under pressure, uncertainty, and challenge. The process transforms ordinary endurance into strength, hesitation into confidence, and avoidance into mastery. Start by assessing current routines and tasks for relative ease versus challenge. Identify areas where tasks are comfortably completed without significant effort or mental strain. These zones of comfort are safe, but unproductive. Take inventory of activities in professional work, personal goals, physical training, and even emotional management that rarely require more than habitual performance. Understanding where current tolerance begins and ends establishes a baseline for intentional escalation. Incremental increase is key. Extreme difficulty introduced too quickly can overwhelm, demotivate, or produce avoidance. Instead, raise challenges progressively, allowing the mind and body to adapt. In physical training, this may involve adding weight gradually, increasing repetitions, or extending duration. In intellectual or professional work, it could mean taking on more complex projects, practicing skills under time constraints, or handling tasks that require nuanced judgment. Gradual escalation ensures that competence grows alongside effort, creating sustainable development rather than intermittent struggle. Deliberately seek situations that induce controlled stress. These are environments where stakes are meaningful but manageable. Public speaking, complex problem solving, difficult conversations, or unfamiliar tasks push capabilities while providing opportunities to refine tolerance and composure. The goal is not recklessness, but strategic exposure. Repeated practice under manageable stress strengthens neural pathways that enable calm decision-making, rapid problem-solving, and effective performance under pressure. Monitor responses to increased difficulty closely. Attention to emotional and physical reactions reveals where tolerance is developing and where adjustments are necessary. Discomfort, fatigue, or heightened anxiety are natural signals indicating growth zones. Rather than avoiding these feelings, observe and integrate them. Developing tolerance involves maintaining composure, continuing action, and adapting strategies even when initial reactions are uncomfortable. Awareness transforms stress into a feedback mechanism rather than a signal to retreat. Adopt deliberate challenges in everyday routines. Small, repeated exposures accumulate into significant resilience. Examples include resisting minor conveniences that compromise standards, extending effort in mundane tasks, or intentionally choosing the more demanding but growth-inducing option. These micro-challenges condition the mind to tolerate difficulty without external reward, strengthening discipline and reinforcing identity as someone capable of sustained effort. Strengthen cognitive resilience through problem-solving under constraint. Limit resources, impose time pressure, or tackle unfamiliar problems to increase mental endurance. Confronting complexity without immediate solutions cultivates patience, creativity, and tolerance for ambiguity. These experiences develop the capacity to remain effective in uncertainty, reducing anxiety and enhancing decision-making in high-stakes situations. Develop emotional tolerance alongside cognitive and physical challenge. Confront discomfort in interactions, ambiguity, or setbacks. Practice responding calmly to criticism, rejection, or delay. Observe impulses to react emotionally or avoid difficulty and replace them with measured, intentional responses. Emotional tolerance strengthens confidence, reduces impulsivity, and increases the ability to act with clarity when faced with adversity. Incorporate reflection into every challenge. After facing increased difficulty, review the experience critically. Identify successes, missteps, and moments of resistance. Document strategies that enabled progress and note adjustments needed for future escalation. Reflection reinforces learning, transforms experience into practical insight, and ensures that challenges lead to sustainable growth rather than temporary strain. Design environments that amplify exposure to challenge while supporting adaptation. Remove elements that artificially reduce difficulty or create false comfort. Surround yourself with peers, mentors, or systems that hold you accountable, demand higher performance, and introduce constructive stress. Environmental reinforcement makes tolerance building less dependent on fleeting willpower and more embedded in daily experience. Balance difficulty with recovery. Continuous stress without adequate rest or reflection produces burnout rather than growth. Deliberately schedule periods of recovery to consolidate gains, integrate learning, and maintain energy. Recovery ensures that escalation remains sustainable and allows for incremental increases in difficulty without compromising long-term performance. Anchor tolerance building to identity. Frame challenges as evidence of who you are becoming, a person capable of effort, endurance, and mastery. Every successfully navigated difficulty reinforces self-perception as resilient, capable, and disciplined. Identity becomes both a motivator and a stabilizer, reducing the psychological cost of confronting discomfort repeatedly. Leverage deliberate discomfort in goal setting. Choose objectives that are meaningful, require sustained effort, and stretch capabilities. Goals that challenge physical, mental, or emotional limits create natural exposure to difficulty and provide a framework for building tolerance. Incremental progress toward these goals solidifies resilience, while producing tangible results that reinforce commitment. Introduce constraints that increase effort without altering objectives. Limited time, reduced resources, or additional responsibilities create pressure that demands adaptability, focus, and constraints act as miniaturized stress tests that condition tolerance, enhance problem-solving skills, and prevent complacency. The controlled difficulty of constraint-based practice amplifies capability while maintaining alignment with larger objectives. Reward perseverance strategically. Recognition of effort reinforces the value of endurance and tolerance. Simple, intentional acknowledgement of sustained effort or successful navigation of difficulty strengthens neural pathways associated with discipline and resilience. Rewards can be internal, reflective satisfaction, pride in mastery, or external, aligned with meaningful achievements. Reinforcement transforms repeated effort into ingrained habit, rather than episodic performance. Apply difficulty escalation across multiple domains. Physical endurance, intellectual challenge, emotional regulation, and social interaction each offer unique opportunities for tolerance building. Integrating growth across dimensions produces comprehensive resilience, ensuring that adversity in one area does not destabilize performance in others. Multidimensional challenges cultivate versatility, confidence, and holistic strength. Recognize that setbacks are integral to the process. Failure under increased difficulty is not defeat. It is an indicator of current limits and an opportunity for recalibration. Analyze mistakes, identify contributing factors, and adjust approach before attempting escalation again. Controlled exposure to difficulty coupled with reflective correction strengthens tolerance more effectively than uninterrupted success. Cultivate the ability to endure monotony and repetition. Many challenges are not dramatic, but arise in the sustained, repetitive effort required to reach mastery. Building tolerance for long, unglamorous work develops patience, reinforces discipline, and conditions the mind to remain focused when progress feels incremental. Persistence under repetitive strain creates the foundation for tackling complex, unpredictable challenges. Finally, understand that increasing difficulty and building tolerance is a long-term investment. Every deliberate challenge, moment of controlled discomfort, and reflection on response contributes to an expanded capacity to perform under pressure. Tolerance becomes a habit, resilience an identity, and competence a natural outcome of sustained intentional effort. By intentionally raising difficulty across physical, mental, and emotional dimensions, life becomes a series of calibrated growth opportunities, producing strength, confidence, and mastery that endure far beyond individual challenges. Begin by selecting one area of life where comfort dominates performance. Introduce a manageable increase in difficulty. Observe your response and document outcomes. Repeat with incremental escalation, integrating reflection, environmental support, and reward. Over time, tolerance grows, capabilities expand, and challenges that once seemed intimidating become manageable. The practice of confronting difficulty systematically reshapes the mind, body, and character, producing a life defined by resilience, adaptability, and unwavering competence. Number 8. Schedule growth. Eliminate comfort. Time is the most unforgiving resource, yet it is also the most potent instrument for personal transformation. Growth does not occur passively. It emerges from deliberate allocation of attention, effort, and energy toward actions that stretch capability. Comfort, while alluring, is a trap that lulls potential into stagnation. Every choice to prioritize ease over challenge chips away at long-term development. Scheduling growth and eliminating comfort is the conscious structuring of life so that progress is inevitable, resistance is minimized, and potential is actualized through consistent, deliberate action. Start by identifying the domains where growth matters most. These might include skill development, physical conditioning, intellectual challenge, emotional maturity, or professional performance. Once these areas are defined, break them into discrete objectives and actionable steps. Growth becomes tangible when expressed as clear actions, scheduled within the flow of daily life. Without scheduling, even the most well-intentioned objectives are subject to inertia and distraction. Prioritize growth activities by impact. Not all opportunities produce the same return on investment. Focus on actions that compound over time, producing benefits that multiply rather than dissipate. For example, dedicating time to learning high-leverage skills, building relationships with mentors, or completing challenging projects produces far more long-term value than passive consumption of entertainment or low-value tasks. Allocating attention strategically ensures that effort directly accelerates capability rather than merely occupying time. Integrate growth into the daily calendar with uncompromising precision. Treat time dedicated to development as non-negotiable appointments. Block periods explicitly for skill practice, focused work, exercise, reading, reflection, or problem solving. When these blocks are respected consistently, growth becomes habitual rather than sporadic. Failure to schedule deliberately allows comfort to creep in, filling time with distraction and shallow engagement, ultimately undermining potential. Eliminate comfort that undermines progress. Comfort manifests in subtle ways: delaying difficult conversations, procrastinating challenging tasks, indulging in passive entertainment, or avoiding accountability. Identify patterns where ease is prioritized over advancement. Replace them with structures that encourage action, such as setting deadlines, limiting options for avoidance, or introducing minor discomforts that stimulate growth. Intentional exposure to controlled discomfort strengthens resilience, sharpens focus, and enhances capability. Design routines that maximize growth while minimizing friction. Prepare the environment, tools, and resources necessary for productive action. A workspace that encourages focus, access to materials for skill practice, and removal of low-value distractions streamline effort. When preparation is complete, the path to growth is unobstructed, making disciplined action more likely, even during periods of low motivation. Routines become the scaffolding upon which growth is reliably built. Use temporal anchors to reinforce commitment. Establish fixed times for growth activities, and pair them with consistent cues, such as starting work immediately after waking, reading during specific breaks, or exercising before meals. These anchors condition the mind to expect and comply with developmental activities, gradually reducing resistance. The repetition of structured effort transforms deliberate practice into a natural rhythm embedded within daily life. Apply progressive challenge to scheduled growth. Activities should not remain static. They must escalate in difficulty to continually stretch capacity. Gradual increases in intensity, complexity, or scope prevent stagnation and cultivate endurance. For example, incrementally longer work sessions, deeper intellectual engagement, or more physically demanding exercises ensure that development continues beyond initial comfort zones. Growth without escalation stagnates into routine. Deliberate progression sustains advancement. Track adherence meticulously. Recording engagement, effort, and results converts intention into measurable action. Logs, journals, or digital trackers create clarity and accountability. Regular review highlights successes and identifies lapses, providing insight into how well growth is being prioritized over comfort. Awareness of progress reinforces motivation, while identification of deviation prompts corrective action, ensuring alignment with long-term objectives. Introduce external accountability when possible. Sharing goals and schedules with mentors, peers, or coaches increases the likelihood of adherence. The social dimension of accountability reinforces discipline, provides feedback, and enhances commitment. Even subtle forms of accountability, such as publicly documenting progress, heighten psychological stakes and strengthen adherence to scheduled growth. Use discomfort as a tool, not an obstacle. Growth inherently requires stretching beyond habitual ease, which produces tension, fatigue, or uncertainty. Recognize these sensations as indicators of progress, rather than signals to retreat. Persisting through controlled discomfort trains mental fortitude, builds resilience, and develops tolerance for challenge. The disciplined embrace of unease is central to achieving sustainable transformation. Anchor growth activities to identity. View scheduled challenges as expressions of who you are becoming, a person committed to mastery, discipline, and self-improvement. Identity-aligned action reduces internal resistance because performing growth-oriented activities reinforces self-concept. Over time, the repetition of intentional effort solidifies a consistent, competent identity that drives behavior automatically, even when motivation fluctuates. Integrate micro-goals within larger growth objectives. Large projects, or ambitions can feel overwhelming and discourage consistent action. Breaking them into smaller, achievable milestones creates tangible markers of progress and maintains momentum. Each completed micro-goal delivers reinforcement, cultivates confidence, and sustains the habit of choosing growth over comfort consistently. Anticipate barriers and prepare strategies to overcome them. Scheduling growth is insufficient if contingencies are ignored. Identify common obstacles, fatigue, unexpected demands, emotional dips, and create preemptive solutions. Adjust time blocks, environment, or methods in advance to minimize the risk of comfort-driven avoidance. Strategic planning ensures that challenges are navigated effectively rather than derailing progress. Incorporate reflection into the process. Daily or weekly analysis of scheduled growth allows adjustment and optimization. Evaluate which activities produced meaningful progress, where comfort still intrudes, and what modifications enhance effectiveness. Reflection transforms repetitive effort into adaptive learning, ensuring that growth accelerates rather than plateaus. Reward consistent effort appropriately. Reinforcement strengthens the habit of prioritizing growth. Rewards need not be indulgent. They should acknowledge perseverance and the sustained choice to confront difficulty. Personal reflection, small celebrations of progress, or marking achievements in a journal solidify the association between disciplined effort and positive reinforcement. Eliminate passive consumption that undermines scheduled growth. Identify routines that waste attention or energy without contributing to development. Limit exposure to low-value entertainment, aimless browsing, or habitual distractions. Replace these with structured activities aligned with growth objectives. The conscious substitution of high-leverage actions for comfort-driven behaviors ensures that time is invested in long-term potential rather than transient ease. Recognize that consistency compounds advantage. Regularly choosing growth over comfort produces cumulative effects that far exceed sporadic effort. Daily reinforcement builds skill, resilience, and competence that compound across months and years. Scheduling ensures these actions occur reliably, preventing erosion of potential by convenience, fatigue, or distraction. Maintain flexibility within structure. While schedules enforce consistency, life inevitably introduces unpredictability. Adjust schedules intelligently, without sacrificing core priorities. Adaptation is not compromise. It is strategic recalibration that preserves the overall trajectory of growth, while maintaining adherence to long-term objectives. Finally, internalize the principle that comfort is the enemy of progress. Every moment of ease represents an opportunity to be claimed for growth. By scheduling development deliberately, structuring routines, escalating challenges, and minimizing low-value distractions, growth becomes unavoidable. Daily life transforms into a sequence of intentional decisions, each reinforcing capacity, competence, and resilience. A life where comfort is eliminated in favor of scheduled growth produces momentum, mastery, and a trajectory toward excellence that is unstoppable. Begin immediately by identifying one high-impact area of development. Schedule dedicated time blocks for action, remove minor comforts that interfere, and define measurable milestones. Observe adherence, reflect daily, and escalate difficulty. Progressive. Over time, this disciplined orchestration converts intention into tangible improvement, ensuring that potential is actualized, comfort is subordinated, and growth becomes a consistent, non-negotiable feature of every day. Number 9. Measure progress. Tighten rules. Progress is invisible without measurement, and standards cannot be enforced without clarity. Every goal, habit, or skill requires a system of observation to transform intention into reality. Measuring progress is not a casual check-in. It is a disciplined practice that illuminates weaknesses, validates strengths, and creates the conditions for continuous improvement. Tightening rules is the natural evolution of this practice. As capability grows and accountability strengthens, standards must adjust to sustain growth and prevent complacency. Together, measurement and rigorous enforcement create a cycle where effort compounds, performance escalates, and excellence becomes habitual. Start by defining metrics for each area of focus. Abstract intentions, such as get better at work or improve health, are insufficient to drive consistent action. Convert objectives into observable, quantifiable indicators. In professional work, this could be the number of completed projects, client satisfaction ratings, or efficiency improvements. In personal development, it might involve pages read, hours practiced, or milestones achieved in skill acquisition. Clear metrics ensure that progress is visible, actionable, and accountable. Once metrics are established, implement a consistent system for tracking them. Daily, weekly, or monthly logs allow for observation over time, revealing patterns that might otherwise remain hidden. Recording progress creates an external record that mirrors internal effort, making deviations and lapses immediately apparent. Tracking transforms subjective perception into objective evidence, giving clarity about where standards are met and where adjustments are necessary. Evaluate performance against established benchmarks systematically. Comparison to the defined metric, rather than external opinions or abstract notions of success, ensures that assessment is accurate and consistent. Identify areas where effort or results fall short, and analyze the causes. Are failures due to insufficient time, inadequate strategy, distraction, or lack of discipline? Understanding the underlying factors allows corrective action to be precise rather than reactive or inconsistent. Tighten rules in response to demonstrated competence. When a baseline is met reliably, it signals readiness for higher standards. Incrementally elevate expectations for effort, quality, for example, if a professional consistently meets project deadlines, raise the benchmark to include higher quality output, shorter completion times, or additional responsibilities. Tightening rules is not punitive. It is the natural evolution of capability, ensuring that growth continues and standards do not stagnate. Combine measurement with self-accountability. Honest, detailed self-assessment is crucial. Avoid rationalizations that dilute insight. A single missed target should prompt inquiry rather than excuse. Consistent measurement fosters a mindset where results, not intentions, define success. Internal accountability strengthens self-mastery because it aligns behavior with reality, forcing choices that reinforce competence and integrity over convenience. Integrate feedback from external sources when appropriate. Colleagues, mentors, or trusted peers provide perspective that can uncover blind spots in self-measurement. External evaluation complements internal tracking by highlighting areas unnoticed due to familiarity, habit, or bias. Feedback, when received objectively, becomes a powerful tool to refine rules, adjust strategies, and elevate performance further. Document trends and patterns, not just individual outcomes. Measurement over time reveals consistency, progress, or decline. Observing cumulative data allows for strategic adjustments to rules, routines, and effort allocation. Patterns highlight where high performance is sustainable and where lapses occur, informing the tightening of standards to prevent regression. Continuous observation ensures that growth is deliberate rather than accidental. Enforce rules consistently. Standards lose power if adherence is selective or negotiable. Every deviation, minor or significant, must be addressed systematically. Identify the lapse, understand its cause, and implement corrective measures. Consistency in enforcement builds discipline, strengthens authority over self, and signals that progress is valued over temporary comfort or convenience. A rule without enforcement is merely suggestion, while consistent enforcement transforms standards into habit. Use measurement to identify friction points in routines or processes. Some standards are difficult to uphold due to structural inefficiencies or environmental obstacles. Observing where effort falters allows redesigning systems, eliminating unnecessary barriers, and creating conditions conducive to sustained compliance. Measurement informs not only accountability but also optimization, making adherence to elevated standards practical rather than arbitrary. Develop rituals around review and adjustment. Regularly scheduled reflection sessions allow assessment of metrics, evaluation of rule effectiveness, and identification of areas for tightening. Weekly or monthly reviews provide structured opportunities to reinforce accountability, recalibrate effort, and escalate standards. Ritualized reflection converts measurement from occasional observation into a disciplined, habitual practice that continually elevates performance. Integrate consequences for failing to meet tightened rules. The purpose of measurement is not fear but alignment. Identify actions that correct deviation and reinforce adherence. Consequences should be proportionate and constructive, designed to strengthen discipline rather than induce defeat. This approach ensures that measurement translates into sustained improvement, preventing tolerance of mediocrity or habitual lapses. Pair progress tracking with reward systems. Recognition of consistent effort reinforces behavior and motivates continued adherence. Rewards can be simple markers of achievement, acknowledgement of milestones, or small personal incentives. Rewarding discipline strengthens the psychological association between effort, compliance, and satisfaction, making rule adherence self-reinforcing over time. Ensure rules evolve with complexity. As capability grows, static standards fail to challenge or develop further potential. Progressive tightening maintains momentum by continuously raising expectations for quality, consistency, and effort. Dynamic rules prevent stagnation, ensuring that performance improvement is continuous rather than episodic. Growth is sustained by an environment where standards evolve alongside capability. Measure both quantitative and qualitative dimensions. Numbers reveal output, but qualitative assessment captures depth, nuance, and skill integration. For example, in creative work, counting completed tasks measures productivity, while evaluating originality, impact, or refinement measures quality. Comprehensive measurement ensures that rules are tightened in ways that enhance both quantity and quality of output, producing balanced excellence. Embrace the discomfort of accountability. Tighten rules and constant measurement challenge complacency, induce pressure, and expose weaknesses. Rather than resisting discomfort, interpret it as evidence of growth. Sustained engagement with challenging standards builds resilience, reinforces discipline, and conditions the mind to operate effectively under expectation. The psychological endurance cultivated through measurement and rule enforcement becomes a cornerstone of long-term success. Utilize technology to enhance precision. Digital trackers, spreadsheets, or specialized software reduce error in measurement, provide clear visualization of trends, and facilitate systematic tightening of rules. Leveraging tools ensures that tracking is efficient, accurate, and actionable, allowing focus to remain on consistent execution rather than administrative overhead. Internalize the connection between measurement and identity. Seeing oneself as someone who tracks, evaluates, and adjusts behavior consistently fosters self-perception as disciplined and capable. Identity alignment ensures adherence to tightened standards, even when motivation fluctuates. The practice of measuring and refining becomes an expression of character rather than an external obligation. Finally, understand that measurement and rule tightening are iterative, interconnected processes. Measurement identifies the current level of performance. Tightened rules create the pressure and structure for improvement. Over time, this loop compounds capability, reinforces discipline, and elevates standards. By continuously observing outcomes, adjusting expectations, and enforcing adherence, performance escalates naturally, mediocrity is eliminated, and excellence becomes habitual. Begin immediately by selecting one area of life where performance can be objectively measured. Define clear metrics, implement tracking systems, and schedule reflection sessions. Observe results carefully, identify patterns, and adjust rules to demand higher standards. Over weeks and months, this disciplined practice transforms effort into consistent achievement, aligns behavior with long-term goals, and ensures that progress is visible, actionable, and continuously accelerating. Number 10, expect more. Prepare daily. Every day begins as an opportunity, a blank canvas upon which achievement, growth, and mastery can be inscribed. Yet, most people navigate life passively, allowing circumstances to dictate effort rather than intentionally setting expectations for themselves. Expecting more of yourself is not a matter of arrogance. It is a conscious decision to define standards that surpass comfort, complacency, and external limitations. Preparation is the vehicle that transforms expectation into reality. Without daily preparation, High expectations remain wishful thinking. By combining elevated standards with deliberate preparation, performance, discipline, and personal growth are assured to compound over time. Start by defining what more means in your life. It is not enough to vaguely desire improvement. More must be concrete, actionable, and measurable. This could involve exceeding previous performance metrics at work, increasing output in personal projects, deepening skill mastery, or enhancing relationships through deliberate attention and effort. Clarity ensures that expectations are meaningful and enforceable. Without specificity, ambition becomes an abstract aspiration, rather than a guide for intentional action. Once expectations are defined, embed them into daily routines. High expectations require consistent, tangible engagement. Sporadic effort is insufficient. Map each expectation to a specific action or set of actions that can be completed daily. For example, if intellectual growth is a priority, schedule dedicated reading, practice, or learning sessions. If health is a focus, define precise exercise and nutrition actions. The act of translating expectations into daily preparation transforms abstract goals into structured progress. Preparation begins the night before. Daily planning creates a mental and practical framework for success. Identify the tasks, priorities, and challenges for the next day. Gather necessary resources, plan time allocation, and visualize execution. The mind is more resilient when it anticipates challenges rather than reacting to them. Evening preparation reduces decision fatigue, minimizes distractions, and primes the brain for deliberate, high-quality action. Each day starts with purpose, rather than random. Anticipate obstacles and plan contingencies. Life is unpredictable, and challenges will arise. Preparing for potential disruptions ensures that high standards remain achievable even under stress. Identify weak points, whether time constraints, environmental distractions, or personal tendencies toward procrastination, and develop strategies to navigate them proactively. Anticipation strengthens resilience and reinforces the connection between expectation and action. Adopt a mindset of refusal toward mediocrity. Expecting more of yourself requires rejecting shortcuts, convenience, and complacency. Daily preparation ensures that excuses and external pressures do not dilute standards. By framing each day as an opportunity to deliver beyond what is easy, ordinary, or convenient, every choice reinforces discipline and personal authority. Excellence becomes habitual rather than aspiration. Integrate incremental growth into preparation. Preparation is not only about handling the present, but also about building capacity for future challenges. Include tasks that stretch skills, endurance, and mental resilience incrementally. Daily exposure to slightly elevated difficulty prepares the mind and body to handle larger challenges seamlessly. Expecting more, paired with consistent preparation, creates a compounding trajectory of improvement. Establish rituals that reinforce expectation and readiness. Rituals simplify the process of consistently preparing and performing. Morning routines, pre-task focus exercises, and evening reflection consolidate energy, intention, and awareness. Rituals reduce reliance on fluctuating motivation by embedding high standards into automatic patterns of behavior. Each repetition strengthens the alignment between expectation, preparation, and action. Use feedback loops to refine daily practices. Preparation is not static. It requires adaptation based on performance, outcomes, and insight. Track successes and shortfalls, analyze causes, and adjust routines and strategies accordingly. A system of feedback ensures that daily effort is increasingly effective, reduces wasted energy, and aligns preparation more closely with elevated expectations. Iterative refinement transforms ordinary effort into precise, high-impact action. Combine physical, mental, and emotional preparation. High expectations demand readiness across multiple dimensions. Physical energy supports sustained effort. Mental clarity enhances decision-making and problem-solving. Emotional stability allows composure under stress. Daily preparation should attend to all these dimensions. Exercise, nutrition, meditation, journaling, or planning to create a resilient platform from which performance can consistently exceed baseline capabilities. Create visible reminders of expectations. Environmental cues reinforce standards and signal readiness. Notes, schedules, or visual markers provide constant reinforcement, preventing deviation from intended effort. The brain responds to repeated cues, and strategically designed environments reduce friction between intention and action. Visual reinforcement ensures that expectations are not abstract, but persistently present in the flow of daily life. Prioritize critical tasks based on impact and alignment with high expectations. Not all work produces equal returns. Daily preparation includes determining which actions most effectively advance standards and focusing attention accordingly. This ensures that energy is not dispersed across low-value activities, making deliberate choice a core component of preparation. Prioritization amplifies the effect of effort, aligning daily action with long-term goals. Anticipate mental resistance and plan strategies to overcome it. Even with clear expectations and preparation, the mind naturally seeks ease. Recognize predictable moments of hesitation, distraction, or fatigue, and predefine responses, structured breaks, motivational triggers, or micro-actions that maintain momentum. Preemptive mental preparation strengthens self-mastery and reduces the likelihood of compromise when difficulty arises. Embed reflection and adjustment into each day. At the end of every period, review accomplishments, shortfalls, and adherence to standards. Reflect on what preparation was effective, what needs improvement, and how expectations align with outcomes. Reflection converts experience into learning, reinforces accountability, and identifies incremental improvements for future cycles. Daily assessment ensures that growth is intentional rather than incidental. Celebrate disciplined execution. Reward adherence to preparation and performance in meaningful ways, reinforcing the psychological link between effort, planning, and satisfaction. Rewards can be internal, pride, acknowledgement of progress, mental satisfaction, or external, small tangible markers of accomplishment. Reinforcement strengthens motivation and encourages consistency, making expectation and preparation habitual. Maintain adaptability within preparation. Plans should be flexible enough to accommodate unexpected changes without compromising core expectations. Adapting strategies, reallocating time, or reprioritizing actions ensures that high standards are sustained despite evolving circumstances. Flexibility enhances resilience, allowing preparation to remain effective in dynamic environments. Link expectation and preparation to identity. View daily effort as evidence of who you are becoming: disciplined, capable, resilient, and committed to excellence. Identity-driven motivation reduces reliance on external reinforcement and embeds high standards into intrinsic behavior. Each day of preparation reinforces self-perception, creating a cycle where standards are naturally upheld through habitual alignment with identity. Recognize the compounding effect of consistent preparation. Every day in which effort, planning, and execution align with elevated expectations adds momentum. Small incremental improvements accumulate into substantial long-term transformation. Preparation ensures that each day contributes meaningfully to capability, competence, and self-mastery. Finally, internalize the principle that expecting more and preparing daily is a non-negotiable foundation for success. High expectations without preparation are empty. Preparation without expectation is unfocused. Together, they create a system where standards are clear, effort is deliberate, and results are inevitable. Each day becomes an opportunity to exceed prior performance, to reinforce identity as a person of discipline and capability, and to build cumulative progress that compounds over time. Start immediately by defining one area where higher expectations are critical. Outline specific actions to prepare for the day ahead. Anticipate obstacles and establish micro-rituals that reinforce readiness. Execute with discipline, reflect on outcomes, adjust strategies, and repeat. Over weeks and months, this integration of elevated expectation and daily preparation transforms potential into consistent achievement, fortifies resilience, and ensures a trajectory of continuous growth and excellence.